identities and understanding treaty as sacred. Miskaskawin and Kichi Asotamatuin. For my visual representation of my treaty Miskaskawin story, I decided to create a growth and identity tree. My tree of identity represents my journey to understanding treaties as sacred, showing how my Miskaskawin nurture my actions and hopes for reconciliation. I'll begin by discussing my tree roots. I'm half Vietnamese and half Danish. Both sides of my family made their ways to live on treaty land. I inherited silence and a responsibility to begin listening, growing, and ongoing learning about this treaty land. I've learned that treaties were made as sacred promises in the presence of the Creator and will carry spiritual weight. My roots remind me that I didn't choose the land that I was born on, but I can choose how I walk on it. I also included this quote by Vowell: relationships must be renewed with constant care, negotiation, and openness to change. So treaties too. Which highlights treaties are like relationships. They require ongoing care, communication, and willingness to adapt and be flexible over time. The next section of my tree is the trunk, which demonstrates my relation to treaty and responsibility. I'm a settler on Treaty 2 land. I'm a student studying to become a teacher, and I'm learning what it means to become a treaty person. I no longer see treaties as old documents. I understand them as sacred relationships that require ongoing respect and action. Treaty relationships embody mutual benefit, mutual respect, reciprocity, and mutual responsibility, as stated by the Office of Treaty Commissioner. I acknowledge that my treaty identity is slowly forming through learning, mistakes, and growth. My branches of my tree support how I will honor the living spirit of treaties in and out of the classroom. I want to bring the spirit of treaties in small but meaningful ways into my future classroom by centering Indigenous voices in my learning, incorporating land-based holistic learning, and speaking out when I see injustices. I believe treaties are not just historical, they are alive in how we teach, how we relate, and how we show up. Kovacs stated, Indigenous perspectives offer an alternative, counter-perspective, a different way of being, learning in the world. The branches of my tree represent how I carry these responsibilities into my education, relationships, and everyday life. The leaves of my tree demonstrate how I will move forward in education and kinship. I want to create a classroom where Indigenous knowledge is present and we teach the truth about Canada. I hope to plant seeds of truth and care in my students so they grow up knowing treaties as sacred, not just legal. My tree represents me saying that I'm learning and continuing to grow on my journey towards fulfilling my treaty responsibilities. Some of the examples I have included are create a classroom of Wawichatowin, which means reciprocity, holistic learning, pedagogy of kinship, honoring Indigenous ways of knowing, planting seeds of justice and truth, having land as a teacher, and a safe learning environment for truths. Thank you for listening to my treaty story. I know that Miskaskawin, coming to know who I am, is a lifelong process. Through this tree and the teachings I've received, I'm learning that living treaty means carrying sacred responsibility, not just in words, but how I live, teach, and relate every day.